everybody, to the Internal Compass podcast, the podcast where I empower you to live a pain free life and hopefully be a little bit more realigned from inside out. I'm Samuel Archambault. I'm an osteopath and a kinesiologist specialized in pain rehabilitation. And welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, I want to dig in a little bit more around the physical pain notion. So if you've been watching and or listening my previous episodes, you can notice that yes, I like to discuss a lot about perception of pain, but now I want to take a little bit more of an approach towards to physical pain in a functional manner. So, in basic words, what does that mean? It means that in day to day, we have some tasks to do, we live our lives, and maybe we're active also. So this episode, if you're someone active and you feel some type of physical pain, your shoulder, your hip, your knee, you started to run, you have some ankle problems, all of those things, we will address them today in a way that we will talk today about this one specific concept that is called pacing. In other words, let's take a step back. You're doing all those things. You're living your life. Life is cool, life is enjoyable, and out of a sudden, you start to feel some pain. That pain is going to, one way or another, limit you. It's going to limit you in your day to day activities, in your workouts, maybe in your professional life, and how you can be also social with other people. Maybe you will not want to go out so much or do certain type of activities that's going to limit you. Very good example for me. My right ankle has been bothering me for some time, and maybe I will have a little bit of a reserve when it comes to jumping around, for example, just to give you a little bit of context. So, this pacing concept that I want to talk about is a very good approach to give a little bit more nuance when it comes to pain. Because what we tend to do, and what we hear a lot from recommendation, is pain equal, and the more pain I have, the more afraid I'm going to be to not reproduce some type of movement or some type of activities. With reason. By the way, did you know that the more fear that is associated with pain, the more fear that you're going to nourish or feed? Because, example, you have some pain and then will have some negative emotions or thoughts around it. This actually is going to be imprinted in your brain, not if I'm writing something in your brain, but actually your brain is going to reshape itself, and the areas in your brain that is associated to feeling fear, such as the amygdala, will actually take a little bit more of dimension. It will grow. So literally your brain is going to reshape itself if you experience more fear and you entertain this fear. Just to be clear, I think that feeling a little bit of fear when it comes to pain and being hurt or harmed, I think it's normal. It's normal because it's a defense mechanism, right? Of course, if you have a broken leg and you don't feel anything that would stop you to jump around on that leg, well, that would be completely absurd. So of course you don't want to do that, right? You want this to protect you. So that's why the fear is there. But there is a difference between being completely afraid and shutting off any specific movement, and also, hey, maybe trying something. There is a space in between doing absolutely nothing and doing like nothing ever happened and you are pain free. The goal here is not to put completely aside your pain. Every client I have that comes into my office, first thing I do is I acknowledge their pain. So I'm going to do it with you also here. If you feel pain right now, I know it's true. It's the reality. There is nobody else that can tell you, no, that's not true. You're not feeling that. Just push it through. Because pain is a very subjective notion. Only you feel pain like you feel pain. I hope this is clear, but in other words, even if you can relate maybe and talk to someone, yeah, I have the same type of pain, we're never going to feel it the same, because we're all going to have maybe we have the same stimuli coming from our knee, but our perception of that pain through our beliefs, our fears, our thoughts, they're going to be different. So, coming back to pacing, let's make it practical. The next time you experience some pain, or the next time, maybe even today you have a little bit of pain, instead of discarding completely the options of moving, let's see how we can maybe adapt to it so that you can keep moving forward. You can keep having a minimal level of functionality in your day, with respecting your pain limit. First strategy when it comes to pacing is going to be reducing the frequency or the volume. We can put that into the same bucket. Example, you have some lower back pain. Every time you bend forward, you have a lower back pain. Is it every single time? Well, maybe you tell me, hey, Sam, you know what? Actually, in the morning, it's not so bad, but if I do it over and over and over again, that's where I start to hurt. Well, guess what? It's very simple, but what if you do it less often? So instead of doing the exact same thing, by reducing the frequency of that specific movement that make you hurt or that makes you experience that pain, well, just reduce it. So if we put this into a context of a active lifestyle, if you go for a run and your knee hurt, well, do you run and straight away you feel the pain, which then it would be a little bit more different? Normally, no, right? It's after a few kilometers. Well, what if we take the volume that of your run per week? So let's say that you go for a run every day and you run 30 minutes a day. Well, what if we start running one day out of two and we only run 15 minutes, so that if your pain starts to arrive after 20 minutes, then we don't hit that threshold. We keep you into this kind of a safe zone. And that has multiple effects. One of them is you don't feel the pain, so this is great. Two, it keeps you moving. You can keep being active, you can keep being functional. And also, three, it's going to change your belief around pain, because now you don't associate, I run, I have pain. No, now it tells you, hey, I run, I don't have pain. So you see here, you're also having a psychological effect. You're changing your beliefs, you're building your confidence in yourself. So I always say a little bit is better than nothing. And that you can apply to anything, right? If for you, you have pain in your shoulder when you try to reach something over your head, well, guess what? Maybe you try to put your things a little bit lower, so you still have to raise your arm up, but not in a way that's going to trigger your pain so much. See? So adapting your lifestyle, adapting your reality, and maybe lowering the volume might help to pace a little bit more those activities that are very functional in your day-to-day life, but they don't stop you from doing everything. The second strategy we can use in terms of pacing is limiting the amplitude. So this is I already touched on it regarding my example with the shoulder, but example, you do some squats and then you have some pain in the front of the thighs. Okay, what do we do with this? Well, if you do your squat and you go all the way down and you feel the pain all the way down, what if we reduce the amplitude? So in other words, you will go less deep. You are going to bend less your hips and knees to a level that this is not going to trigger your pain, right? Or at least it might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's not going to be damaging for you. So that's another way you can limit your range of motion as well. And that could also be done for general movement in the day. So another example would be, okay, I go for sprints and then I have really bad like knee pain after that. Well, what if instead of doing those big sprints, what if you do smaller push, or then you change the activity where you would do, example, maybe sprints on the bicycle, where your range of motion is going to be way less. See, you can still train the same thing you want to train, which are sprints, so very high intervals or very high intensity, but in a way that it doesn't trigger your pain. There are many ways to go around this and to be creative. And I think that's why it's really useful to have someone to follow you that is able to assess your situation. Another option is to go slower. If you look at one specific movement, so example, I'm picking something off the floor. very classical thing. And then we have lower back pain. Tensions in your structures, in your muscles, and in the fascias the tension is going to be way more if you bend and unbend very quickly. So what if you just reduce the pace, reduce the speed that you do this movement, right? If you go slower, normally your body has better time to adapt, to prepare, to brace also, right? To recruit other muscles to try to support you. So reducing the speed is also another option for you to a little bit go around. If you're used to do some very high speed stuff, you're skiing or you're doing some explosive movements, well, by doing those same movements but much slower, that gives the time to your body to adapt, to really recruit the muscle fibers that needs to be recruited to brace your core properly. Reducing the speed allows you to reduce the tension that is applied at the same time. The tension is going to be the same overall, but now that we kind of spread it over a longer period of time, well, that has definitely helped us to do the same movement, but without or with much less pain. Reduce the intensity. Already a little bit touch on it, but if you have pain, if you do something that is very intense, example, you might feel pain if you haven't run for a while and then you start running intervals. Oh, everything hurts, and then you don't like that, so it's going to take away all the motivation in you to keep running. Well, what can we do? Instead of saying, hey, you have to stop running completely, what if instead we take a step back and we lower the pace and the intensity and we decide to go for slower jogs? Again, we're building that confidence, and we're running, right? You're going to run, you're going to do the activity that you want to do. You have some pain in your shoulder and you're used to push very heavy weights, or even even lighter weights, but you can always dial it down and always work on no weights. Maybe some mobility drills that has no weight but still tension on the joints. So in other words, it's not necessarily that you see those things black and white, right? I do this one type of exercise and then it hurts, or it could be in the gym, it could be as an active lifestyle, but it can also be on day to day, right? I sit and I have lower back pain. Well, what if you sit a bit less, reduce the time under tension? What if you find a way to change your sitting position? There are always ways to be creative, to go around. And that is so important, because by completely discarding a specific position or a specific movement that we're going to do in the gym or in our day-to-day life, then we start to just cut, oh, I can't do this hurt, I can't do that. So at some point you end up doing not much. But remember, our body is made to move. So it's better, I would argue, to keep it moving in all planes of motion, in all the different range and amplitudes, but why not at a lower intensity? Why not cut before it gets to the point where it hurts? Because no, we don't want to work in pain. That's very important. I'm not telling you to push through the pain and just keep going, Okay, there might be time that it hurts in a way or another. Example, you're at a race and then you run and it's your legs are burning, everything hurts. Well, of course, you're doing a physical activity that is intense. So there are those type of pain that you can push through, and that becomes a bit more mental. But now we're talking something a bit more chronic, right? Something has been bothering you. You have pain in your knee, and I'm not going to tell you, well, hey Sam, I have pain in my knee when I run, or just when I bent it very, very deep. Well, I'm not going to tell you, well, just keep doing it more. Of course not. But does that mean that from now on you can't bend your knees at all? Neither. Yeah. Of course, that's not the solution either, right? And now also remember that, take a step back, and this is an approach you can have in a multifactorial approach. Of course, you're not only going to apply these pacing strategies. You're also going to see a professional. You might have some medication. You might do some physiotherapy. You might have some manual therapy. So this is only one strategy in the global, all of the various strategies that is our disposition. All I'm giving here is tools, our tools for you to use to try and see, hey, does that work for me? Oh, actually, yeah, I can keep moving if I do it a bit less intense or with less amplitude, or I just spread the volume a little bit more. For more functional exercise, so or something that you would do in your day-to-day life, I really like to work around, hey, how can we change your biomechanics? And the most easy example for that are people that have lower back pain, because whenever they bend over to pick something, they only use their low back muscles to do that. Well, what if maybe we teach you how to move your body correctly? What if you learn how to bend your knee, how to brace your core, how to rotate properly? And doing those things is definitely going to change how you feel those sensations in your body, because maybe you just did not learn how to do those movements correctly. So another way to pace the rehabilitation process into being pain-free is, if you have pain, well, check the mechanic, right? Most people I know, when they use their shoulder, they cannot move properly their shoulder blade. Well, maybe they don't know how to do that. So the educational piece is really important when it comes to pain, because sometimes we have a lot of compensation in our body, and for that we need to be taught and we need to learn. Movement is something we learn. It's a skill. Look at athletes. Do you think that throwing like throwing some kind of a weight, or doing some complicated weight movement over your head, or playing basketball, those are all skills that you acquire. You have to learn those things. It's not something that just like arrives like this. And you can tell people who have not learned those skills, and when they're adults, they move very awkwardly. My best test for that is I ask my clients to throw a ball, and you can see automatically who has been doing some sports when they were younger and who hasn't. Because for some people, even today as an adult, throwing something looks like completely, I call it motor moron. It's not coordinated, and so maybe some of us did not get the chance to learn it properly. So relearning those biomechanics definitely will help you use your body how you should be using it, and it will probably help how you feel your pain. And the last strategy when it comes to pacing is around finding another activity. Example, what's the goal of your activity? For you, you really like to go walking. In the morning, it's nice, you can go walking, but your hip starts to hurt. Maybe there is some kind of a condition that for you walking right now, even if you try to apply the other strategies, you just can't do it. What if you try bicycle? Does it hurt also? What if you try swimming, right? What if that can reach the same goal? So you feel better, your health is taken care of, you feel that, hey, I have done something for me today. What's the goal of that specific activity? Can you go around? Can you change the activity to reach the same goal? But the alternative activity is actually going to result in you achieving the same goal. It's just going to limit or completely make disappear the pain that you feel in your body. So to recap, pacing strategy. Pacing strategy has a lot to do with how we perceive the physical pain in our body and how we can adapt to it. So just to do a small conclusion around it, if you experience some pain and you want to use pacing, you can reduce the intensity. You can also modulate the range of motion. You can also change the volume or the frequency, so how many times you do it, how in a week, but also in one specific session. You can also change and relearn the biomechanics around it. And at last, of course, you can definitely change the entire movement so that you can reach the same goal, but just with a different activity. And hey, if you want to learn also different type of tools, very practical, down to earth and scientific tools on how to better manage your pain, I strongly recommend you can apply for my online program. It's the second cohort is going to start officially in January. So I'll put a link in the note of the episodes. The first cohort is going to run in October and November. It's already full. but you can already apply for the next one that's going to start in January. It's all online, 30 minutes a week, plus some homeworks for you to try, but I'm really here to try to guide you. It's a small group settings. I want to keep it really individualized and really supportive, so you can give it a try as well. I hope that you've enjoyed today's episode, all about pacing. So on that note, I will see you in 2 weeks for another episode of the Internal Compass podcast.